creatives, community, and kind folks. Hello, everyone. Welcome to RPG with DBJ, and I am your host, DBJ. Welcome to the show that is live Monday through Friday, tri-casting on 3 different mediums and taking a subject all week long, taking it and deep diving into it, using each day to subdivide that same category. And today is World Building Wednesday, one of my favorite. And this week we're taking a look at food and drink in tabletop RPGs. And you can absolutely, positively go back into our archives, take a look at Monster Monday and Discord Tuesday. Glad to have all of you. I see you there, CF. What's going on there, sir? Please, you can, if you are live, you can absolutely just pop in comments, questions, and all kinds of things. Just keep it positive, keep it moving forward over there on Twitch chat, YouTube chat, and our own Discord server down in the boiler room. Now, yesterday we did bring up the idea of a fictional substance known as arcanium, tangentially related to something like uranium or plutonium, but like what the hell does that have to do with food and drink in tabletop games? Well, in World Building Wednesday, whatever subject it is that we are talking about, we are going to shape a world in which that subject matter has taken root. It has shaped the way the environment and society. We're basically making a setting based around that particular thing. Now, we have drawn quite heavily from one of the most famous substances, commodities in science fiction history, probably a top 5, and that is spice melange from the Dune series. And we decided to call it arcanium. Actually, I just came up with it on the spot, but whatever. And kind of a radioactive, mineralized kind of thing, sort of, or what have you. And I'm thinking that we can use this as the basis for other things, meaning like, much like a radioactive material can infect, say, groundwater and the earth, and even have, grow crops on top of where radioactive materials have been deposited. I'm thinking that's where we can come from, where there's a 2-step phase to this consumable commodity. That there is the raw, unfiltered, super dangerous, highly irradiated, arcaniated material, and then there is a far more subtle, safer, processed thing, like poppy seeds grown over top of radioactive land or something, where you have the radioactive material below it, and then you have something that has absorbed elements of it. While it may be dangerous, it may not be so disruptive to human or humanoid life and society that we can still consume the product that's on top of it. And so therefore, pulling again from, I think we can really pull from our own real world factions and political motivations, religion, war, and all that concerning this commodity. Maybe this commodity is the thing that moves countries. Without it, you're defenseless. With it, it makes you a target, and everybody wants it, but nobody wants to take care of it because it is so dangerous. Yet now, sure, did we talk about purple worms? And it's pretty much a direct rip from Dune. Yes, maybe we could come up with something far better as a source of something that creates this material, or at least finds it for us, which would be something else. And I'm thinking in my head I'm a story guy. I like to know where the conflict is coming from. So for some reason, this idea of this arcanium material is making me think of your classic your classic adventuring character types and what purpose they would have in our story. So, of course, we have to, because this is we're talking about food and drink. I'm picturing that in a high class world, there may be elements of like smokes or drugs, drinks, semi-alcoholic drinks, where the rich and powerful, proving, flaunting their richness and their power, may drink these, for some reason, devolving into like glowing blue liquids or something, or their fingertips and noses and mouths are stained with the consumption of these materials. And this is a perfect excuse for snatching up some of your favorite stat blocks and giving it to random, old, very rich and powerful, but randos in your world, even if they are of a different or basic racial or humanoid character type. So, for example, you could have the Council of Seven in a particular city, and heck, their skin is like a bright blue. They've been consuming, you know, unfiltered arcanium for so many years, and so of course they're not. They may look like elves or something like that, but in your world, you might roll open your book and go, okay, I'm going to pick a CR-15 person, and their bodyguards have different things, and so, and of course, in a scholarly manner, we could arrive at different capabilities based on how either how the arcanium is filtered, or maybe the pure stuff is like the most powerful, i.e., CR10 plus blocks and above. Like basically, the PCs know anybody mainlining pure arcanium and living through it, even if their lifespans are shortened, or they're pretty likely to go insane or die or explode or melt or something of that nature. You don't mess with those people. They see and know all. It's like their mind is one with the universe, and you just won't be able to get away with anything when you're near them. But maybe some of the more plant-like things, the alcohol distilled from grapes that have been grown, well, not just grapes, but grapes, potatoes, rye, rice, wheat, whatever, that's been distilled down with very minute. I'm thinking arcanium could be like a salt in the sense that it's a mineral, but it could also be ground down, maybe very dangerous to handle. It requires thick gloves, goggles, ventilation, very dangerous to use in and around public spaces, so that the authorities might need, like much like meth dens and your classic cinematic drug dealers, and how they have to, they have their people getting the drugs together, and they're standing there naked, and they're cutting it down and all that kind of business, and dealing with it in dark alleys and dirt roads and all that kind of stuff. I'm thinking arcanium might be dealt that way. That a kilo of arcanium, costs you, nearly life in prison. People buy and sell and will murder over it, and giving it to an addict is terrible as well. Not sure how much we want to get into having drug addicts or arcanium addicts. Maybe we can call them something like arcani addicts. That's a little too much of a mouthful, but maybe we could even call them ethereals, maybe, or or what some would say is the mispronunciation of ethereal. They could be ethereals in the sense that they're not here to them. The ether is the real place, as they maybe not just mentally or psychologically, but physically fade away from the addiction. I could imagine there being places that help cure people, wean people off of arcanium, so we could have an equal and opposite mechanism, someplace that an organization that wants to collect the stuff that's raw and or processed and house it away, destroy it, like Elliot Ness stopping prohibition or something, or heck, government hazmat places that are going around, and they put up they put up the tape, and they stop the spread of the radiation, and they spray things down. Maybe there are organizations that go around in this fantasy world that are like spraying people's homes down and marking things off, and using, I don't know, hell, you could even have arcane casters having like holographic images of warning to keep people away while the organization has to scrub the place down, so that there are literally no traces of arcanium, plutonium left in the region. And this would be a pretty good excuse for having even newly settled cities being cordoned off, quarantined from particular locations, so you could have a map with cities that are no longer primarily near waterways, water sources, that cities have moved away either due to being located far too close to a ley line, or located far too close to a source of arcanium that someone has found in the Underdark, or again the abuse of this arcanium in a major city, and then having so much of the city blocked off due to quarantine that people have to leave. But of course, you have to have scavengers, people who refuse to leave, interlopers moving in, documents, items, treasures, all those kind of things left back in these various cities. Maybe even waterways that have been poisoned by the arcanium, with typical fish and shellfish and things like that in these streams growing to immense sizes. So yet again, another perfect excuse for why you have intermingled some of your favorite monsters and creature types and things into your world. And of course, arcanium can be the excuse for everything from the restless dead, people murdered and killed in I don't know, arcanium bursts, and now of course their banshee wraith like purpose hasn't been settled, so now they're out there. Or because we decided to make this arcanium mineral and the byproducts of it part of our world, maybe damn near everything is just hunting it down. And of course, PCs want that power too, so they're going to be victim to the displacer beast hunters that are going there, hunting arcanium users, hunting them down. But it may be the reason why, like, I just make an example. You have a backpack filled with a container, but it's still giving off those radioactive, energies, however you would measure it, arcana wise. Ooh, humanoids used as hunters, like the not specifically going towards sorcerers, but I'm thinking maybe there are people who possess one to three special traits. So maybe there are people like someone blind, but they can see the ley lines, and they can almost sense or smell the direction of vast amounts of arcanium, especially if it's pure. And so they can hunt down the PCs that are constantly in using espionage and spycraft to find, much like finding the spies finding plutonium that's been stolen, and someone wants to create the MacGuffin, the dangerous MacGuffin. There may be blind people who only see these things, or maybe those drug addicts, or the arcane addicts are the ones who are used and abused and kind of thrown away. Maybe going so far as to even having dog collars on, massive chains around people's necks, and their one purpose is just to hunt it down and sniff it out, and sniff around corners and such. I'm thinking, even if you wanted to go even darker, or further into this, there could be a lot of body horror. undead with their limbs cut off and one single goggle like implanted in the center of someone's desiccated face or something, and they look around corners and all these that they don't even care who you are or what you are, but they just crawl around corners and push their way through crowds to look for ounces of this material. Now, of course, we when you're the high class people having food and drink laced with this material, of course, having it run through your veins as such is a way to display your power and your finances, right? Hey, listen, I can just I'm drinking. I'm eating caviar because I can afford to eat caviar. Not just by it's not just for you. It's to display who and what you are and how much power you have. The same can be done for how much they allow their constituents to have access to it. A royal guard or royal hunters that have access to it, and of course they want to keep their position, so they will do and say whoever do and say and follow the instructions of their leadership, and so. To keep their elevated place in power, the lieutenants, of course, they're going to want to get some of that arcanium as well. Yeah. Rickard says, classic world building with food. There's nothing that shows a higher status than exotic foods. So you have adventurers who hunt crazy monsters for foodstuffs. Oh, hell yeah. And and of course, if it is especially something that is consuming this arcanium, it could be in the creature's like gullet or something, or maybe it could be something massive like a purple worm, but it's literally all they want to consume is a small little gland, one little gland that has that power. Just an ounce of it can shape nations or something. I kind of like that idea, but of course there's like you said, the like a fox hunt is a great story idea where the player characters are out there. Maybe they're mounted, so you get to use some of your mounted rules. There, you have characters who have to use multiple skills together, going out there into the wild, into uncharted regions. Although it could be you could just as easily have a fox hunt on the property of a very rich noble, but again, if they're out there in the wild and this stuff is very valuable, so you got to go out and hunt. You have to survive. You could place NPCs within the PC group so that they could possibly be adversarial. The classic gold rush idea, right? Everyone's going out there, but it's every man for themselves. Yeah, Anderson says the fruit of immortality or gods may be a food hoarded by the nobles. Hell yeah, of course it's going to be. If it's a commodity, someone is going to make an economy with it, right? They're going to put some kind of value to it, and you know, what's the classic? Hey, if you had one superpower, what would it be? And of course, as kids, we're like invisibility, super speed, flight, super strength, or something. But immortality is probably a top three, maybe unspoken, but it's up there, right? Like, sure, you can be powerful, but everybody wants to be powerful and live forever under their regime, right? Like, hey, I made this, I put this together, huh? Who put this together, huh? Me. That's who I trust. Rickard says, Wonder pepper, a pepper that when sprinkled on any food will make the food taste good. I like that. I like that a lot. Sounds very fey-ish. Does it show that I'm trying to drag the conversation away from drugs that gives powers and back into food and drink? Hell yeah. Yes. Hell yes. Now, listen, we talked about like the nectar of the gods idea, where there could be a type of fruit or spice or plant matter that has come from that has some kind of divine or otherworldly origin. Could you imagine the the power it would be if someone went to went into the outer realms and found just a single seed and decided to bring back a single flower or frond or a grand knight or something, was able to fight alongside in the blood war with the celestials and was granted one single flower, and that person comes back a millennium ago and decides to plant it in a field over the grave of their loved one. And now fast forward to today, and there's foods and drinks like honeyed wines and things that are made from this flower that only grows in a particular region during a particular phase of the moon or whatever. And but it grants people, it instantaneous class levels or something. I mean, flowing into some little mechanics there. But yeah, I mean, a noble that can't die, a criminal organization that where you have someone who can live, if not forever, extremely long time, which in many ways takes out this could remove the air quote of have a thing you're evil, don't have a thing you're good idea, right? Where a very a very kind and just person may be dying, and the PCs need to gather just just one of these flowers, or gather one of these drinks, golden drinks that allows this person to live another, I don't know, 101 years. And so to save this person's life, who's a noble or a rich merchant or whatever, might be necessary, while of course the PCs are being fought against because they want this person to pass away on their naturally. Now, again, we could have ourselves I don't want to say class, a sector of the public that is able to harness this frond or nectar or seeds or something, the leaves or whatever, meaning there is something to be said for, I don't know, the flowers that give the Black Panther, Black Panther's abilities and such, right? And you get the purple frond or whatever, but maybe there are people who tend to these things, like gardeners or herbalists or apothecaries or something like that, that they themselves may not have power, but their skill is necessary. How do you handle it? Maybe it's very delicate. They know they can read the animal and plant life and the weather systems to know exactly where these patches of these wild growths will happen. It could be quite chaotic, in one sense, for people to have to hunt and gather the material, and it could be a combination of hunting and gathering, where the gatherers know where it's located, but you need the hunters to keep the predators away. Maybe there's some kind of predator that lays an egg or makes a nest or something in these fields or crevices where these plants are located, just instinctually. So if you see a flock of, it's the idea of I went into the tropics, and my wife and I and a bunch of other people, like 30 of us, went to see dolphins. And it out at sea, they look for flocks of birds overhead, because the flocks of birds overhead are looking for fish, and the only reason they're doing that is because the dolphins are herding fish into a fish ball, and then the dolphins take turns diving into the ball of fish that they've herded together. So one thing could lead to another, could lead to another. Oh, there's a flock of carrion birds. Those carrion birds are telling us that there is some kind of predator, because that predator's found prey, and then that prey feeds off of the fronds that grow in these random locations, and then we can go find that. That was a long thread. Jesus, my brain goes off. Rickard says world building around the Wonder Pepper, post-apocalyptic world in where there has been decades long drought. So all food in the world is the nutritionist sludge soup. Yeah, the old classic soy chunks and stuff is just basically cardboard. Rickard goes on to say, making the Wonder Pepper in high demand. Different grades of pepper gives gives better results. So golden pepper makes it taste like a Michelin star level food, while tin pepper makes the food taste bearable. And I know you when you say, of course, you're not referring to peppers, but you're referring to the spice, like a pepper that you place on top of the food. Maybe even making something that's normally not very nutritious. Like there are foods that we eat, but they're empty calorie foods. Maybe this makes those empty calorie foods a little bit more manageable to eat and digest. Heck, there could even be foods that are just so hard to digest that you almost you need to consume it, but the side effects of it, and I mean like real world side effects, like vomiting, diarrhea, cramps, other hives and things like that. Maybe this alleviates a lot of that as well. And Ricker goes on to say, and to make it into an adventure, the pepper is actually the gland of a monster. The more mature and powerful the monster is, the higher the grade of the pepper. I could see people trying to farm that animal, put it in a domesticated kind of arena and hold on to it, like fish farming, domesticated cows or things like that. Now, how successful they are, I don't know, but definitely going to have people who are going to be for and against that, especially if that powerful monster, given the lack of control, would wreak havoc in the public sphere, right? Trying to make a farm community of boulets, of land sharks, is pretty daunting, considering that they swim through the earth like sharks, and they're extremely violent predators or something. Even though maybe they have something inside of them, that it'd be the same thing like trying to, I don't know, herd basilisks, or I don't know, collect flocks of manticores or something. Like, they're pretty damn violent. Now, I remember the other day we were talking about where there are food taboos, about such as a taboo of eating anything that's a predator, right? Something eating an animal that hunts and kills other animals. And so there could be food taboos as well, in terms of like the ethics or morality of using this spice, this pepper on your food, from a community that does not approve of killing this thing, but does approve of using the thing. Right? We get a lot of that. There are a lot of our own countries that have the idea that, okay, well, we don't hunt ivory, we don't hunt rhino horn, but we sure will buy it and use it. Thereby, going, well, by your acceptance of it, you're actually condoning it. And then, of course, you have the other side of the exact same argument. We're like, well, listen, we can't stop it. It already exists. We're going to use it anyway. We're just making it illegal for us to get involved. So if it goes away, we're fine. But if it's out there, we have the money and resources to scoop it all up. So why not? Also, the idea of having this kind of like pepper, this seasoning, this spice, makes it a far easier commodity to travel and take with you back and forth. So players may need to have sacks of this instead of gold coin, the classic gold piece or something. This kind of pepper or spice could it trades its weight in gold, if that makes sense, right? You're like, oh, I'd like 3 chickens in a wagon. You're like, what do you got? Pull off of your belt pouch. You have this, open up the spices, and the people are like, ooh, yeah. Yeah. Rickard says, to make this into a dragon analogy, okay, you might be able to farm hatchlings, which is tin, and young dragons, which is copper, and adult dragons, silver, couldn't be kept at farm due to danger, but can be hunted in the wild, and only the really wealthy can afford the price to have adventurers hunt ancient dragons, which would be gold. Ooh, now if that's hyper specific, like like literally like hunting down like brass and bronze dragons, like their literal dragon type. Um, Ouch. Now, of course, I like this idea because you could both metallics and chromatic dragons, classically in Dungeons and Dragons, could all be victim of this process. So there may be a little bit of the ancient dragons wanting to hint gold dragons and red dragons working together, or at least having a common enemy, which is the rest of us, because we have domesticated their young or captured their young before they grow too large. And I could see some people trying to, what's another form, another word for farming, harvest, I guess, these glands out of these dragons, allowing them to grow. The larger they grow, the more effective it is, but the more dangerous it is. So some may have escaped, others would kill their captors and owners and escape as well. Of course, you're going to have people who want to free them and let them go out in the wild, but they, of course, don't have the commodity to trade on the open markets like these other places have. Rickard says if you build on that, you could have it that the dragon types give different taste, and the age gives you the grade. That's a very simple, like five by five grading system. Take you get like dragon types, five age types, and just grid it out. I like that. It's very simple. It is a very you could even make it an in-world reference where someone is like either tasting something or dropping it into a fluid or using a monocle or whatever to take a look at the grade, and someone's like, the old gnome is like, this looks, I'm thinking this is a copper grade, this is copper white, or something like that. Like actually have it labeled where it's like, this is ancient, and ancient black would be like they call it like black gold or something, or white copper or whatever. Yeah, you could. Yep, yep. I'm thinking that so much. Ricker says so. You might have the noble that only eats black dragon glands, but only adult or better. Yeah. There are, much like, I'm going to stay away from drugs. Much like there are different cuts of meats, beef, poultry. There are different types of drink. Wines have different alcohols. All alcohols have different classifications. There are well wines and well wines and beers. There are upper crust ones. There are people, and of course you have the people who are just like, I wouldn't even bring myself down to the level. And if there are any benefits from it, maybe those benefits are also static, related by status. So, for example, your blue collar workers will consume the cheaper brands because the blue collar benefits from it, the labor benefits from it are more physical: strength, speed, endurance, maybe immunity, some healing. It's all physicality. Whereas the higher grades become far more otherworldly, psychological, mental, enchanting. It makes you live longer. A beautiful. You sound greater. You're able to sense emotions, more of an empathic feel, more mental abilities, limited astral projection, lifting things with your mind, seeing through walls, going so far as like teleportation or something. Yep, and I was waiting for Rickard to go there. It says like, "Pff, Lord Bob has no taste and refinement. Pff, eating white dragon glands." Exactly. And of course, you can tie dragons to the glands, white dragons, cold, black dragons, acid black, but I would dare say it would probably be better. You much like our grid, we have our value grid based on, five stages of age, five stages of color. You could do the same with the capabilities. So a white dragon at its most basic level of like 10 or something, or youngling or hatchling, might make you have resistance to cold. Okay, all right, pretty common. But as you move up, maybe you can look someone in the eye and they're frozen in their space, right? Or you give a cold glare, going away from pure like ice, like cryo powers. Maybe there's something cold and heartless about you that you're able to tap into, that makes you that person. Maybe there's even little subtle side effects if you just want to make this very narrative. Alabaster skin, white eyes, ivory hair. No matter the humanoid or the consumer. So someone could have, I don't know, two pet tigers or wolves that consume this in their food because they're that rich, right? And they put it in their pets' foods, and of course they have white fur or feathers. They're two guards, like one's an ogre, the other's a minotaur, and the ogre's got like almost like a marbleized skin with blue eyes. And maybe throw in some reskinned abilities in there, right? The Minotaur has like a gray tufts of fur that go into like a long white mane of hair, and these long, ivory horns that are stained pink from all the blood that's been gored onto the horns or something like that. Like you could really reflavor and reskin a lot of the extraneous things in the world. Maybe there's some people who wear specific colors, black scarves, blue tiaras, rings of green emerald or something to denote what kinds of glands that they're able to harvest in their community, and also maybe their specialty even. That's a possibility. Ricker goes on to say, from Lord Bob, Lady Bobette knows not what she talks about. She could not test the difference between one black land and another. No doubt her servants just buy, 10 grade and pocket the difference. It's not like she could tell the difference at all. Yep, exactly, exactly. I love the social commodity of it. Like people just bargaining and haggling over top of these wares, and I guarantee that these markets may not be quite open to the public. Maybe these markets move around, and they, like a farmer's almanac, it's chaotic in how they move if you don't understand where and when these we have to give it something, like the dragon scale market or something like that these people come from far and wide and they gather together, and there's just like one market that comes together for these quite rich but dangerous individuals nonetheless. Scott Poe says the taste master is that old milky-eyed ancient gnome, fully blind, possibly a little mad, but so important to the empire that the party gets them to the remote past when the peppers grow. I'm so with you on that, because this again, this is a great way to get rid of the classic like murder hoboism, where sure it's easy for you to kill off the NPCs, but you'll never get ahead in this world, right? You need food and drink necessitates exploration and social interaction on a level unseen from other things, right? Because what we're talking about is, yes, the player characters could absolutely positively murder, kill most of the NPCs and steal these items, but they will gain the ire of like so many other people, so they're going to have to be smart about it, right? Making deals, knowing who to trust, knowing who to backstab. So you get a lot of like social interaction, espionage, discovering the lay of the land, a lot of mystery as well. The, a community that has authorities where, on one hand, they want to keep the markets open, but on the other hand, there's like murder and killing and things like that, and you have to measure, okay, law enforcement versus open markets, who shuts it down, who maybe an enemy intentionally wants the PCs to be blamed for having the markets lose control or having something stolen, i.e. the basis of the Dune series, right? Let the Atreides family take over Dune, the good and just family take over the distribution of spice throughout the universe, only to then sabotage their efforts so that they lose power and functionality by the Harkonnen or Harkonnen, however you would like to pronounce it. Yep. Scott Poe goes on to say on alchemically changed but nevertheless dangerous shambling mounds, which is the real reason adventurers are needed. The harvest. Yeah, hell, I see. For me, I love the idea of like mixing that together. Like how having to harvest fruits and minerals and vegetables from something, and then you again, like, you mix it on there, like, okay, well, if you got to scrape the stuff off of a shambling mound without killing the shambling mound, like, can you communicate with it? Does it want to be communicated with? If you could, these druidic orders, unfortunately, are like ripping their hair out. Like, are you kidding me? Are people really harvesting this stuff? I could imagine whole druidic orders hiring their own espionage groups, and I don't mean just like rangers and things. I mean like infiltrating big cities and things to stop the air quotes, dragon spice trade, or the to halt the spice trade, because it's wrecking so much havoc on so many other things, as well as the fact that we know that modifying too large of one particular thing in our natural habitat will cause a growth somewhere else. So maybe there's a certain type of insect that eats a particular type of leaf, but we've been harvesting those leaves to use, drying them and grinding them down. So we've been taking it all. So maybe the insect swarms either die off, which affects other harvests, or maybe they increase and they start swarming around populated areas to try to find more of the sweet leaves and nectars that they want, so on and so forth. So you could really spike up the danger of maybe some of your natural predators out there, natural creatures and things like that, insects, oozes, and things. And then, of course, that leads into the more sentient creatures and more powerful ones as well. So I like that a lot. Rickard says, turning this around, extrapolating world building from lembas bread, you have a foodstuff that lasts a long time, and a small bite will last you for hours. So you have foodstuff that can feed many and for a long time, minimizing time it takes to prepare and eat a meal. The idea of we've thought of this before, and it continues to be discussed, that in Dungeons and Dragons you have like Goodberry, creating food and water, basically your top three, right? You have other ways to survive out there. Leomund's tiny hut is a good example, where you have magic that, and I'm sorry, and the cantrips themselves, the prestidigitation and thaumaturgy cantrips, druid craft cantrips that would alleviate some of the most devastating things in medieval history, right? So the creation, and like you're saying, yeah, like you're saying there, Rickard, like extrapolate that from that. Would there be food in the world for the normal people? And the danger of having magic alleviate our need to survive is the fact that you don't need people to have the skills you won't have as much of a larger population of skills to have people survive. Some people claim that even in our world today, that we have less and less people who have the skills to generate more and more nutritional foods for us, because a lot of those people will leave the rural areas to go to the big cities to learn how to do the thing. Is it better to become a farmer, or is it more beneficial to learn how to cast magics to create food, rather than, much like going to modern day idea, do you live in a small town, you want to go to the big town? And so that there might be a lot of contention with that, especially if, like you said, yeah, Scott Poe says magic leads to late stage capitalism. Hell, late stage? Shit. Instant stage? Really? If you think about it, right? So, so yeah, I could see a turning it around to have a food or drink item. Drink would perfectly fit into this. Maybe there's some kind of golden drink that basically lasts forever. It's clean. No magical enhancements. It just remains clean. It remains pure, and it has a shelf life of like generations. And as long as you seal it together, or hell, you could maybe not even seal it. You pour it into a pot and it stays viable for a long time. That in and of itself would give maybe humanity time to engage in other things. But keeping it away from the population, hell yeah. Would there be people that like the Mad Max Fury Road thing? I'm going to open up. I'm going to hand out bread and nectar of life to my people who are starving, standing outside of your castle walls, because of course none of them know how to farm anymore, and they're all struggling to get inside the castle walls. They want to be up close to those with the power. So when they hand out these small scraps of bread that can last them weeks, small drops of golden fluid in, just held in the hands, that can allow them to be hydrated for days and weeks on end, to go back to the work camps or something. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And even teaching the skill, or the people who have the knowledge to create these, we need a name. I'm going to use a short name, like timeless. Let's do like a timeless loaf, right? So the timeless breads are one that is created by a select few, much like a school or a college, or a school, college, maybe even internship, and only the few of the few. Of course, money exchanges hands. Of course, a noble kid gets to be into this, and so that again, we have another classification of people, very small group of people who control the power, and they might be the kingmakers behind the kings and queens, behind the nobles, behind the councils. That, listen, I have the timeless loaves right here. If only you vote the way I want you to vote, right? Rickard goes on to say, the workers might be given it so they can be kept working nonstop, while the nobility still prepares real meals as a show of status. Ooh, that's an. I like that that equal opposite thing, right? Like status for real meals, or hell, even meals that very quickly. We know certain foods very quickly, they become stale. They become rotted very quickly. Lots of dairy products and things of that nature, lots of meats. And so the rich eat the foods that they know spoil quickly because they can. And then the workers are given the longevity foods. And now, mind you, I hear some of you thinking like, well, if workers and the normal people are given the longevity food. When I say longevity, I don't necessarily mean their lifespan is longer, but their ability to work is longer. Maybe they don't need to sleep, and they work these long hours and things over and over again. You would think the larger population of workers would easily outnumber and overtake the nobility. But we know in our own anecdotal evidence in our own world that that's not the case, right? And a lot of that not being the case is dangling hope in front of people. So if when you unite everyone together, they're a threat, but you need something to separate them. It's the hungry wolf mentality, right? You have a bunch of hungry dogs or wolves or whatever, but you only feed a few of them, or maybe even just one of them, so that they can't work together to overthrow you. So there must be, I could see there being some kind of known method for a commoner to rise above their status into the status of nobility of some kind of way. Lottery, merit system, competition measurement, merit not just of your skill, but like duties, the offering of firstborn for a particular reason, like to join a guardianship, something of that nature is what I'm thinking would be, or various permutations of that would be, so that while the workers, while the nobles may come and go, hell, they might even age out or whatever, the workers themselves may last a long, long time, always remembering, trudging back and forth in their lowly hovels and stuff like that, over and over and over again, which in a weird way kind of is reminding me of the clanking masses in Eclipse phase, but you have this huge mechanical artificial workforce working eternally for the sheer pleasure of those who are above you. Yeah, kind of strange and kind of weird, and it brings up the idea of, do you, those that are trapped in a world where they are enslaved by their work and labor, do you destroy this tenuous but balanced economy simply because it's not right? Maybe the people who are working desire to keep it in order because they understand that they need to be there. That some of them are classist, right? They may say, "Well, listen, I'm in a lower caste system. This is where I'm supposed to be. It's karma. It's where I should be. One day, maybe not now, maybe not in the future, maybe in another lifetime, I'll move up." Maybe there's also the idea of those who are classists that are like, of course these people are below me. I'm only here temporarily, but one of these days I'm getting to the upper reaches. You worry about me. I don't plan on, I don't know, harvesting fields or constructing monuments or whatever, dumbass thing that some noble wants people to do forever and ever, right? They're just like, hey, I've built 37 monuments to the nobles. I'm about on my 38th. And their friend is shaking her head like, dude, why are you proud of that? Seriously? I could see megatropolises being built in a world like this, where it's not so much land used for harvesting, but again, building monuments to someone's ego, or multiple levels of monuments built on top of other monuments built to other people's egos, because you have the wherewithal to do it. You can build mega structures, bridges and tunnels and towers, and who cares if it collapses on some workers or something? You've got a whole other group of people that are tirelessly working. So yeah. Rickard says you talked about colleges and such. We haven't even talked about the monk cloister breweries. Oh yeah, that's been. You're so right. We haven't talked about the fact that the monk cloisters were known. And it's funny because there's a place here in Ohio, and lots of places where I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, had cloisters which were to earn money in the religious monk cloisters. They would specialize in something, and also this also I believe related to finding something to do with your time. So you were toiling away at work, So a lot of these cloisters would do things like make breads, cheeses, wines, candles, uh, all kinds of things. So you could have these people. I This is a terrible analogy, but like the Hunger Games sectors where you had different people. Yeah, Dead Man says there was an episode of Futurama about that. Yeah, where you have classes of people who are trained to do one thing, and those people live there to support the greater whole to do the one thing. Woodworkers, uh, people who tend to beef, people who grow, rhubarb and and other tubers in the ground, ones who collect mushrooms, someone else that makes fine wines with certain types of grapes, another place that makes certain alcohols with, like I before, with rye or potatoes or corn or something, and the idea would be that culturally they know their survival is based on them exclusively doing the one thing. And so, of course, they don't want other people to be taught those skills. So you must join their cloister, and they don't want those skills getting out. So, of course, they're going to have agents to make sure no one steals their cloister secrets. And the ruling population won't want that to be spread around because unity is fear, and fear for their power. So yes, now how efficient that would be, there's no efficiency. There would be bleed over all the time. But I could imagine having different houses, and each house has publicly, each house has something very mundane: wine, cheese, meats, poultry, fish, something like that. That's their sigil, right? That's their mundane part. That's their consumable. But underneath, each house has like a darker thing, like assassination, murder, torture. One house is a secret police. They monitor the other houses. Another house is just a spy network. Like they could, each house could also have their specialty underneath. One house is just about intimidation. Another house is just about bribery, or another house is about fixers, black market. So yeah, on the surface, when you see the house emblem of the silvered fish. Yeah. Yeah, that's the kingdom of Pollock, right? Like you could very much have a very above board, very mundane and very necessary food and drink service need for your whole population. And that's what they service for the community. Everyone needs them. There's also the side mundane portion of it. So if you are, say, a coastal house, you are a shipbuilder, you have sailors. If you harvest beef and meats, buffalo, or that kind of thing, ranged animals. Maybe you also have trackers and hunters and defenders, shepherds. If you have like goats and sheep or something, so you have defenders of the land, and they are mounted warriors, and they're also very good at riding horses and ranged attacks or something. Like, so you could extrapolate out some of the skills that would happen from each of those houses. And the player characters, before we get out of here, the player characters are assembled from different houses because there is some form of there's a form of acceptance, right? Okay, follow me on this, because we're about to end this here. Follow me on this, okay? So everyone knows that the less houses there are, the better. And so everyone has an enemy house. But on the surface, you can never claim that you want to end a house, because that means that you want to end our way of life, right? I like that. Lythander's Mead, Maller's Pincer, the Masks IPA. Hell yeah. Yep. Helm Stout. Yeah, hell yeah. That would be sweet, right? You're known by the drink. You're known by your house drink or something. And So it's an open secret. Everyone's working against each other. Every house is working against the other. But you can never say it out loud. So you must assemble agents from other houses that are integrated into your own house. Much like having different authorities work together to achieve one goal. So if your house is the house of grains, but you must have the house of the fish and the house of the, the house of the fowl and the fish come together into your house. And that's where the player characters come in, and their loyalties are drawn between the group of player characters themselves, all of them divergent personalities and origins, but they come together, and also the loyalty of your home house, and then the loyalty you show in service to the house that you are bonded with, right? So I could see all of that coming together quite effectively, where you have one PC is like, you work for the house of the scales. They're like, what do you want me to do? Are you going to give me poison? You're like, poison? No, I want you to give a gift to the queen, just from us, just so that in the the next conclave or something, when the vote comes together and the new Valley Pass is assembled, that we have access to that pass first and foremost before our enemies or something. And of course you have the one idiot that's like, I don't know why we just don't get rid of the other house. And of course, that person gets smacked in the back of the head like, you fool! Don't let anyone ever hear you say that! So that would be pretty hilarious. Yep. Yeah, Ricker says, the clerics that are stuck in the temples must have something to do. Well, yeah, if you're bored. Heck yeah. Scott Post says, damn, you know how to go off on any topic, DP. Yeah, dude, I love that stuff. I love the sarcasm. You guys know me, man. Take something simple and run with it. Take the sarcasm and make something real out of it. Or just take something real and make something sarcastic out of it. So I'm loving it. I'm loving it a lot. Anyway, this is World Building Wednesday. Shit, I guess the whole channel is world building or whatever. But anyway, tomorrow, of course, is Third Pillar of Exploration Thursday. So join me then. Guys, everybody, have a great one. I'll be in a Discord in just a moment. By then, guys, have a great day. I'll see you later. Great one. Thank you for watching.